Welcome home, friend. We're glad you stopped by. Let's dive right on into today's video. We're going to look at something that I find very interesting, a very good little treat, I would call it. Not so much as a sweet treat, but definitely a treat to those taste buds. We're going to be pickling some red onions today. I hope you'll enjoy that. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Also, comments down below. Why don't you tell me some of the ways after you make it, the experiences you had. Also, maybe some of the recipes you put it in or some of the foods you put it in. My favorite way to eat it, I like frying bologna, mayonnaise on bread, putting a couple of these pickled onions on top. Makes a great sandwich. Put it on fish tacos, pork chops. Any way you want. Be good in beans, cornbread. Boy, that just sounds delicious. No sense in making our mouths water here. Let's just dive on in and get with this recipe. We're going to start today, and I guess the best place for us to start would be boiling our water. So let me get us some water here, and we'll put it on the boil. It doesn't take a whole lot. Maybe just a medium pan here with it about halfway water. Get that water boiling while we are cutting up our onion and making our brine. So let's go ahead and get this started. Move this around just a little bit. We're going to turn that on high heat to get it started, and that way it will go ahead and get started boiling. This recipe that we're making, this is not for preserving for long-term shelf life. This will be a recipe that we make, and we'll keep it in the refrigerator when we get it finished. Even though we're putting it in canning jars or a pint jar, we will not be looking for a long-term shelf life out of this. This will need to stay in the fridge. But we will be putting it in a jar, and it's going to turn out real pretty. Let's just go ahead now that we've got our water boiling. Let's go ahead and begin to make our brine. And we'll just get us another bowl here. I want to make the brine in this because it has the pour spout. Keep it maybe from spilling it when we put it in the jar. And let me look here at my ingredients right quick. And I will put the ingredients in the description as well. We're going to start out now. You could use either type of vinegar. Vinegar is the basic for this to get started with this brine. You could use the apple cider vinegar. I have used that. It's very tasty, good. But today I'm going to go with just plain distilled white vinegar. And we're going to put 1/2 cup of white vinegar in this. I love the smell of vinegar. Pour it over the sink here so it don't make a mess. And we're going to fill this to 1/2 cup. Pour it over there. And then we're going to use 1 cup of water. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use warm water. That'll help dissolve the sugars. We'll let that warm up. And by the way, this makes 1 pint jar. You'll have just a little bit of this left over. Not very much though. It works out quite nice. Now we're going to get the rest of our brine here going. We're going to use 1 1/4. Now this could vary. Really, I probably myself should use just 1 teaspoon due to high blood pressure and diabetes and things like that. I don't need it. You could adjust this as you need it per your diet. But I'm going to use 1 to 1 1/4 if you really like it salty. I do. I cut it back. It could go all the way to 1 1/2, but it gets a little salty there. Just depending upon your taste of what you need this here. Salt. If you know anything about preserving food, anytime you would can anything in a jar, which we're not doing, but I'm throwing this in today, you want to be sure, and I think though for the coloring purposes, because this is, as much as this is a good tasting dish, this is a very pretty thing to look at. we want to use non-iodized salt, and of course I'll be just using just plain sea salt. Does not have iodine in it. We're going to go with, you could go with as little as 1 teaspoon, and actually if you're looking out for your health, that may even be a better option. I'm going to add the 1, and then I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon as well. Actually, that will go in there very quite nicely. And 1 1/4 teaspoon. You could add more if you wanted. Black pepper, you can add that. What would be even better than just shaking black pepper in there? You're looking maybe a teaspoon. You could add black peppercorns. I'm going to go ahead and omit the black pepper in mine today. I sometimes put it in. Today I'm just going to leave it out. We'll go on to 1 tablespoon of sugar. And then what we're going to want to do is stir this up. And this will be our brine. We've got our water over on the stove. We've got it heating up. I'm going to stir this brine up real good. And then what we'll do, our next step, which will be slicing our onion. I'm going to show you how I like to do that. Now, if you're very good with a knife, I like this in rings. I think it looks very pretty that way. And there's just something about it. That's the way I like it. You could chop it up. You could, like I mentioned, you don't have to use a red onion. You could use a regular onion with this. Turn out real good. A lot of restaurants serve this. I have one particularly that we like to go to. It's not quite in our area. We don't get to go too much. That when you order your food, they bring you a little small skillet of cornbread, and they will bring you some of these pickled onions. And theirs is white pickled onions, or sometimes Spanish, or maybe a Vinegar or something. And it's very good. This is very, very similar to that, but it has this pinkish color that turns out real, real pretty. And I kind of like that, and that's why I like to use the red onions. Now that's good and dissolved. We'll go ahead and set this aside. That's our brine. We're just going to let that just sit there and kind of cure a little bit. And we've got our water. It's not boiling yet, so we're going to go ahead and slice our onion. I've already taken the bottom off this onion, but what you want to do, I'm going to leave this top something to hold to. I'm going to use a mandolin slicer. This is my old faithful mandolin slicer, and I just like to do it like that. Just like that. Got our broth going. Not broth, excuse me. I keep wanting to call it broth. Our brine, if you'll take that onion, see that little, pull that off, it won't hurt anything. If you'll twist that a little bit, you won't cut it as much. It likes to tear. Some onions are worse than others about it. And we're just going to go ahead, look how pretty that is. And I'm going to get this other bowl over here, set these onions in it. Kind of pull those apart just a little bit. We don't have to be in a hurry right here, because do remember we're giving our pot, although I hear some bubbles, so we're about, this whole deal does not take very, very long to put together. It's something fun if you're wanting to get started into somewhat preserving your own food. Everybody talks about prepping food and things like that. I do prep food somewhat. I'm not one of the preppers that's prepping for some type of zombie apocalypse or something like that. Even though if that's what you're into, that's good. I have nothing against it. But I do think that it makes good sense to have a couple of months worth of food put back. You never know when, in this economy that we have, you never know when someone might lose a job, or your income level may change. With all the coronavirus and things that are happening, we definitely know how that changed things, and you might not have things readily available on the shelf to go and purchase like you once did. And I like to clean up my mess here, keep it from getting behind where I have to clean up later. So let me just go ahead and grab this. That water should be getting closer to a boil. I see some bubbles over there now, so we've about got this ready for it. I'm just going to pull some of these apart. You can do this however you want to. This is just the way I like to do it. See, it makes a pretty little ring. And I'm going to tell you, the looks of this is what I like. Of course, you could use any onion. I would like a Spanish onion. You know, a good sweet Spanish onion would be good. And done this way too. But I like the looks. I think it just adds something to it. I got those pulled apart. I'm not emotional. I'm not crying. That is the onion. I promise you that. Now we've got our water good to a good rolling boil. I'm just going to cut this off. What we're going to do is we want to add this water over these onions. We want to cover them up with this water. We just needed enough water to do this. Now be careful with this. Watch for splashes. If you need to wear some type of oven mitt or glove, I encourage you to do so. Don't get burned on that. I'm just going to take this and just kind of mash these down, maybe stir it up just a little bit. What we want to do, this boiling water is going to cook these onions a little bit. See that steam there coming off? And it's very hot, so be very careful. We're just going to make sure, flip them around a little bit. It's going to cook these onions. Now, the time you do this, let this sit in here. I'm going to go ahead and look at my time, and I'm going to let it do right at a minute. Minute and a half, 2 minutes. What it's going to do, the time you let it sit in the boiling mixture will affect the tenderness of that. The less time you let it stay in there, the crispier the final product will be. And I like mine crispy, so I'm not going to do it much over a minute. We're going to look at that, give that just a little bit of time, stir this up just a little bit, make sure everything gets good and saturated. Now let's talk about our jar while that's finishing cooking. Looking at our jar, I'm just going to use a regular mason jar that's been sterilized, and we're going to place them in this. Now, we talked about this not lasting as stable shelf life for a long period of time. I haven't done any tests, so I don't know how long it might actually last. Being onions, vinegar, it should be somewhat preserved a little bit. But just for the sake of safety, I've never done any type of test or studies on this, so I do not know. I'm just going to put mine in the fridge because I like to use it. It don't last very long if you're having a good meal, maybe pinto beans or something like that. Pinto beans are some of my favorite, and I'm going to be in a later video showing you some things I do with pinto beans. I have 2 different things that I do with them. One for long-term shelf life that can be stored and used as needed. You can store those up to 20-25 years with your dry beans and your rice and pastas and things like that. And I also pressure cook some. You may say, well, dry beans last just as they are. Yeah, but dry beans can grow bugs and things in them that I don't particularly want, and I don't think you will either. And I pressure cook a lot. Now, one reason I pressure cook them is not as much to preserve them. It has a little bit more to do with easy meal prep. It makes it easy for me to have time because of my work schedule to have a good meal. So this would go great with that, and that will be in a future video, so be sure to watch that. What we're going to do, I'm going to use a colander, and I'm going to just drain this water out of this because it's been plenty of time now. Got to talking, man, it took too long. I'm going to drain these onions. Be careful, they're very hot. So I'll let the water out of there and I'll set that back in the bowl so it can finish draining out. And I'm going to take these tongs because these onions are pretty hard. And we're just going to simply, you could use a canning funnel. We're just going to simply pack this jar to about a 1-inch headspace. And then we will fill with the brine solution on up to about a 1/2 inch. So go ahead and look at that. Get these. I like to shake mine down a little bit, pack it a little bit. The reason is I want to get as much of this goodness as I can in this jar. That broth smelling good. These onions are very strong and scent. Takes about 1 onion per jar, pint jar that you're going to do. Of course, onions vary in size. I'd say medium to large-ish onion, but not too big. I don't know if we're going to be able to fit all of this one in. Well, maybe we are. okay, because you can go ahead and make you a bologna sandwich and a ham sandwich or a sub. All these is great on subs, maybe a roast beef sub or whatever your favorite type is. Go ahead and if you have any left before you pickle them, you can use them just like they are. That's all I'm going to put in there. Get those in there. And I'm going to set these to the side and show you this. Now what we're going to do, you remember that brine that we were making. We're going to take this brine and we're going to pour it over these onions. So let's do that. Very gently using the spout so I don't spill it, but very slowly because it can fill up rather quickly towards the end. Don't want to make a big huge mess. You just want to cover those, fill it to about a 1/2 inch headspace. I had a little bit of brine. I don't know if you, don't guess you can see that. I had just a little bit left. Now let me get a paper towel. And I like to take, fold it up a little bit. Of course, little pieces is all you need. I've seen people tear it off a little bit. I just take it and fold it, use my finger. I tend to just kind of turn the jar a little bit. You just want to clean that top. That's a vinegar brine, so that's actually cleaning as it goes. And just want it to where to seal. It's not overly important for this recipe or this, us keeping it in the refrigerator. It's not very important for it to seal, but it will seal. The hot liquid in this jar, when I put this lid on it, we'll just let this set and cool. That is your pickled onions. Now, what to do, let me give you some recommendations. This will cool, it's quite warm. As that cools, it will seal this top. When it cools, stick it in the refrigerator. Should keep somewhere in the neighborhood 2, maybe 3 weeks if you don't eat them that quick. But I'm telling you, they're very good. You hunt for reasons to eat them, things to try it on. And that's pretty much what we have. Now this is going to change color. It's pretty like it is, but what happens, this is some I made the other day that I'm wanting to eat, and this is going to be its replacement. Look how pretty that is. Now this one, you might see little specks of pepper. I used pepper in this one. This one's very good. It turns a real pretty pinkish, purplish color. I think that looks very attractive in your pantry, but not for long-term storage in a pantry. In your refrigerator, make a good meal with it. It's something to add to about anything. We're going to go ahead and close out this video. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Hit the little bell. We'll keep you updated when we make more videos. We're just getting started, so bear with us. But we're going to be making some very interesting fun together. This is Jerry Brown, your host, and we're going to go ahead and get on out of here. We appreciate you. I hope you'll join us again on the next time.